AI is an amazing technology, but it can't do everything. In this video, we'll take a careful look at what LLMs can and cannot do. We'll start off with what I found to be a useful mental model for what it can do, and after that, let's look together at some specific limitations of LLMs. I found that understanding the limitations can lower the chance that you might get tripped up trying to use them for something that they are really not good at. If you are trying to figure out what prompting an LLM can do, here is one question that I found to provide a useful mental framework. Can a fresh college graduate following only the instructions in the prompts complete the task you want? For example, can a fresh college graduate follow instructions to read an email to determine if an email is a complaint? I think a fresh college graduate could probably do that, and an LLM can do that pretty well too. Or can a fresh graduate read a restaurant review to determine if it's a positive or negative sentiment? I think they could do that quite well, and so too can prompting an LLM. So here's another example. Can a fresh college graduate write a press release without any information about the CEO or your company? Well, this fresh college graduate just graduated from college. They only just met you and don't know anything about you or your business. And so the best it could do is maybe write it really generic and not quite satisfactory. But on the flip side, if you were to give them more context about your business and about the CEO, then we can ask, can this fresh college graduate write a press release given the basic relevant context? I think they may be able to do that decently well, and so too can a large language model. When you are picturing an LLM as doing many of the things that a fresh college graduate might do, think of this fresh college graduate as having lots of background knowledge, general knowledge of the internet, but they have to complete this task without access to a web search engine, and they don't know anything about you or your business. For clarity, this mental model thought experiment fresh college graduate has to complete the task with no training specific to your company. And every time you prompt your LLM, the LLM does not actually remember earlier conversations. It is as if you're getting a different fresh college graduate for every single task, so you don't get to train them up over time on the specifics of their business or the style you want them to write. This rule of thumb is an imperfect rule of thumb, but I found this to be a useful starting point. Now let's take a look at some further specific limitations of LLMs. First is knowledge cutoffs. An LLM's knowledge of the world is frozen at the time of its training. More precisely, a modern model trained on the internet data scrapped by January 2022 will have no information about more recent events. For example, it would not know that the movie Avatar, The Way of Water was the highest grossing film of 2022, or about claims in July 2023 regarding the room temperature superconductor called LK99. A second limitation of LLM is that they will sometimes just make things up, and we call these hallucinations. I found that if I asked an LLM to give me some quotes from well known people in history, it often makes up the quotes. For example, if you ask for Shakespeare quotes about Beyonce, an LLM will confidently give you back quotes like a voice to shine like the sun, even though Shakespeare lived and died well before Beyonce. Or if you ask it to list court cases tried in California about AI, it might give authoritative sounding but hallucinated answers. Hallucinations can have serious consequences. There was a lawyer that unfortunately used ChatGPT to generate text for a legal case and actually submitted an illegal filing with lots of made up court cases. This particular lawyer was sanctioned for submitting a court filing for made up things. Understanding these limitations is important if you're using this for documents of real consequence. LLMs also have a technical limitation in that the length of the prompt is limited, and so is the length of the text that it can generate. Many LLMs can accept prompts of up to only a few thousand words. If you are asking it to summarize a paper longer than this limit, the LLM may refuse to process that input. In that case, you may have to give it one part of the paper at a time. Technically, LLMs have a limitation on what's called the context length, which is a limit on the total input plus output size. One major limitation of generative AI is that they do not currently work well with structured data, meaning tabular data like what you might store in an Excel or Google Sheet spreadsheet. If you were to feed a table of home prices into an LLM and ask for a price estimate based on square footage, LLMs are not really good at that. Instead, supervised learning would be a better technique with which to estimate the price. In contrast, generative AI tends to work best with unstructured data, which refers to text, images, audio, and video.